Shalom, and welcome back to Bnei Noach Academy, Thoughts on the Torah. Please remember to hit the like button, to subscribe, and most importantly, to share this insight and inspiration with friends and family. So when you look in the book of Exodus, chapter 16, this is the story about the manna, or in Hebrew, man, the bread, the food that fell down from heaven. And indeed, it did so for 40 years throughout their stay in the desert. Here, we get great inspiration into our day-to-day life. You see, what were the instructions? If you look in chapter 16, verse 4, Moses instructs them that this is going to be a daily occurrence. You're not going to get the manna for an entire week's supply, or 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, or not even a few days, but rather every single day, you're going to come out and find your bread and find your food for the day. However, he says, if you look in verse 5, it'll be on the 6th day, which is Friday. On Friday, you're not going to just take for Friday, but you're going to get a double portion. And that double portion will supply you both for Friday and for the Sabbath, for the 7th day. And in fact, if you scroll down later on, he tells them in more detail on Shabbat, on the Sabbath, there is no going out to collect the food. Now, there's an interesting Jewish custom, which is very prevalent. You'll see it typically at the setting of the table on which the Sabbath meal, the Sabbath feast is eaten. And it, of course, naturally, a feast, a seudah, a meal of such importance begins with bread. It begins with a loaf of bread. In this case, we put down 2 loaves of bread. That is the custom during the formal meals on the Sabbath. And for that matter, by the way, on the major Jewish festivals, obviously not on Yom Kippur, because Yom Kippur we don't eat. We actually put down 2 breads. We don't necessarily have to eat both breads, but when the blessing is made over the bread to initiate, to start formally this meal, we make a blessing over 2 loaves. And the question is why? Well, the answer is here. This is to commemorate, to remind us about this special occurrence, this special event, which lasted for 40 years, but it was a special event each time. Whereas on a regular day of the week, if you left anything over for the next day, it spoiled immediately. And it seemed so old and rotten as if it was sitting around for weeks. But on Friday, they got a double portion for the Sabbath. So this is to remind us about this special occurrence, about this special event. And the question is, what is the value in reminding us about this? Why do we need to remember this? It's a nice thing. It's a beautiful thing. But it seems like it's past history. Why is it important for us to relive it every single Friday night, every single Saturday, every single Jewish festival? And the answer is because this is reminding us as we wrap up the week in which we worked out so hard. As it says in the 10 Commandments, 6 days a week you shall work, and on the 7th you shall rest. And now we have time. We have time to think. We have time to reflect. We have time to absorb what's going on around us. We have time to analyze. This is when we need to be reminded. Everything, all our sustenance, all our provisions are all from God. Even though on the surface it seems like we have to go out there, which we need to do because God wants us to do. But it seems that it's a result of our going out there and working hard and putting in all that effort and time and smarts maybe. No, it's God who provides. Every single thing we have comes from God. And the fact is that even when we don't work on the Sabbath, so you would think that it would bring somewhat of a less of a blessing. In fact, as the Kabbalah teaches us in the holy book of the Zohar, from it, meaning from this holy day of Shabbat, all the other days get blessed. Meaning, on this very day when we do not work, all the other work days, all the other days of work are blessed. This is a reminder for us. We need to always remember where our sustenance is coming from. Of course, to do our part, to work as much as we need, as hard as we need, not harder than that, not more than that, to work whatever it takes within reason to achieve, to bring, to make a receptacle for the God's blessings. But at the same time, remember that the blessings come from him. And ultimately, that's where all our sustenance comes from.